What's going on, everybody? It's IFBB Pro Josh Jefferson, aka the Moser Muscle, and I'm coming at you with a solo Next Up podcast. I've asked a couple question boxes and have not really gotten to go on a podcast and talk about them, so figured I'd do it here. There's nothing going on with that; just can't find the time to kind of get on there. So figured I might as well just do a solo when I had a little bit of time. All right. Use code Moses at checkout for Natural Body, for HG Muscle, for Iron Society apparel. Wow, English, right? And then Moses Method at Kitty's Bikinis if you got to get yourself some trunks. With that said, let's get into it. So the first question was, how would you structure a program if someone needed to maximize shoulder and lat growth? So I would have this as 2 separate days for each body part, twice a week. So program would look something along the lines of Monday would be pull, Tuesday would be like push, Wednesday would be a rest, Thursday would be pull, Friday would be legs, and then Saturday would be another push session, quote unquote. Now, the priority body part would obviously come first. So if we're looking for lats, we're going to emphasize the lat training first. Single arm pull down, single arm rows, making sure that we're actually connecting with the lat. I have a couple activation drills I like to give my guys. Something like a label. Sorry, I train legs today. My English is not great. Cable lat pullover. Single arm braced. I really like that movement to engage the lats. Some shortened work there to, again, further engage that, because you want to feel like when you're training your lats, you're not trying to feel up in this area. You're trying to feel down towards your spine. So it's like down in the lower part of your back towards the spine. If you're contracting there, that's how you know that you're contracting your lats. From there, just really emphasizing putting a lot of our placement there. And then on our push days would be starting with delts. So you might start with a rear delt or a side lateral raise, then go to a rear delt, then go back to a side lateral raise, because we're really trying to just maximize the most amount of energy we have on those parts. Also, I am a big proponent in being repetitive when it comes to your training. If you're sitting there and you're saying, hey, dumbbell side laterals are, killer. I feel them every single time. They're great. There's no need to just throw in a random movement just because you want variety. With a muscle group like that, throwing more volume at it is actually going to do wonders. You could even go up to 3 times a week if you wanted to on there. If you wanted to go 3 times a week, I would sprinkle that in on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. So I would do it with back and then with legs on Saturday. So that's definitely an option there. Now, going into the next question. Sorry about that. So what I hate about Instagram is when the stories are archived and you try to go by them, like it just gets all bogged up. All right. Next question. Are steps better than cardio? No. Steps are the equivalent of, like, steps to cardio is like chicken to ground turkey. Is one better than the other? No. They both kind of accomplish a similar purpose. But if you're going to turn around and you're going to say, hey, I'm trying to burn body fat, there are merits to doing cardio. There are merits to doing fasted steps. How I look at it is this. If you need to get to a 600 calorie deficit through activity and you do 10,000 steps and 30 minutes cardio, and that gets you to that 600, is that going to be more or less fatiguing than doing 2,000 or 20,000 steps? The difference realistically is those extra 10,000 steps are going to take minimally 75 minutes as opposed to the 30 minutes of cardio. So what do you have time for in your day? If you don't have a ton of time to do 20,000 steps, you might be better off doing the smaller amount of steps and the more cardio. So just something to keep in mind there. All right, next. Single arm or regular lat pull down to get better lat growth. This is easy. Single arm lat pull down, simply because you can line it up better with the lat. When it comes to lat training, we want to keep our arm pretty much slightly underhand. The idea here is to keep the shoulder externally rotated. So as you see me doing this, as I go like this, I'm externally rotating the shoulder. That is going to allow my elbow to drive into my rib cage and be able to pull it back down. So making sure that we are sitting there and we're doing that. Along with that, the lat is going to have some sort of mechanism in upward rotation of the scapula. So we want it to be able to come out and up. So we're reaching out and around as opposed to turning around and just kind of going up and down or front to back. That's going to train more of our upper back there. So when we're sitting there, we're trying to do like a lat pull down in a single arm manner. We want this arm to come up and around and then down and through. As we do that, we get into that shoulder depression. That's where that lat is really going to turn around and get short. When we get a short, then we go into the lengthen. That's where we build muscle, baby. So single arm lat pull down is going to be far better. What's the typical range you like to see blood glucose pre-post meals? So we're talking postprandials here. Under 100 is like the absolute maximum I want to see. But I prefer under 90. Under 90, like Joe says this all the time, it shows that the body is willing and ready to accept food. I 100% agree there. You don't want to sit there and have your postprandial blood glucose number somewhere around like 120. It's telling you that your body's not ready to eat that food. And not only is it not ready to eat that food, but you are then just going to respike your blood glucose. Your body's going to need more insulin. This is going to get you insulin resistant over time. So just being smart about that, making sure that you are in a good spot with your insulin or with your blood glucose. So getting it back down to like 85 is probably a good like roundabout answer there. So get it back down and then allow it to kind of chill. So, all right, next one. This one's from my boy Ty. Favorite compounds for off season, favorite ones for prep. This is pretty much honestly, these are very similar. Like favorite compounds for off season is still going to be test, and in prep, it's still going to be test. The only difference is I'm probably going to use an MPP for the off season, whereas in the tail end of prep, I'm going to lean something more into a DHT derivative. Um, Masteron. I don't really love Primo, but like Primo can be used. I personally like EQ as long as the person's on it for a long period of time. If they're just trying to turn around and like get in and get out with EQ, it's not going to be worth it. It takes too long to saturate. So test MPP or Masteron, depending on the phase. Those are my favorites. I really like Clen. I like Clen in both contexts, but it does not really make sense in an off season. Even like a low dose is just not a good idea. But I do believe that it's one of the best truly performance enhancing drugs that we have. Pharma or generic GH and Y. Pharma is a waste of money. Just go with generics. Get it tested. Make sure that it's over 95, 97, and you're good to go. You'll save money. There is really good generic GH. Um, I'm pretty sure you could even turn around and specify that it has like Midol in it. That way you don't hold as much water from it. So just go with the generics. It's the same shit, but you're spending half the cost. Oh, best protein flavor you've ever had. Hmm. All right, I'm gonna pick three here. Maple Waffles by HG Muscle is fantastic. It's not really a daily driver for me though, because I'm more of a chocolate guy. The Monster Cookie from Muscle Sport is fantastic. And then Axe and Sledge, I think it was called Squirrely Nut. It was their peanut butter cookies and cream. That was really good too. So those are my top three. Um, what's the most ridiculous thing you've done because you were prep brained? To be honest with you, I don't really get to the point of prep brains. I get the drops, like I'll drop stuff. But like I can't say that it's prep brain if I leave my phone in my house because I do that all the time. Um, so like I don't exactly get prep brain. I'll ask stupid questions, I guess, but like not really like I'm not sitting there putting something in the microwave and forgetting to hit start. Like I also think to a degree prep brain is like kind of fake. I think that's people just being tired and kind of accepting themselves being tired. I think to a degree that when you're sitting there in your quote unquote prep brain, like you just got to lean into it and know, like, hey, this is hard. Like, I'm fine though. It's not a big deal. So that's my thoughts on that. All right. You rock the beard and the lip sweater. When's the goatee making it out? I'll be honest with y'all. My facial hair, honest to God, I don't care about. I do it more as a joke. Like I was trying to piss off Joe when I did the mustache. He texted me and told me I needed to shave. Um, so I said, "Yeah, you're right," and then woke up the next day with a mustache. I don't really care. Um, the beard will definitely be making a comeback as soon as it gets cold out. Right now, it's way too hot for that. The mustache is here because why not? It's just easier than like shaving my whole face. My facial hair grows so fast that it's like not worth it. This is like a day, and you can see that it's like 5 o'clock shadow. I shaved last night. So, how do you further your education in the bodybuilding and fitness space? This is pretty simple. I currently am enrolled in the Dom Kuza School for the love of bodybuilding, Joe Percher and Tom Schuster, their school. Um, I did J3U. I did a lot of pre-script courses. So I kind of just go back through a bunch of those and then I watch current podcasts because experience is really the best like teacher. You don't know something until you've been through it. Like there's always a new case that comes up or something like that. So I really think that your best bet is like going through the process. But you need to learn the fundamentals. You need to learn the basics first. If you don't understand the basics, it's going to make everything else significantly harder. There's parts of Dom Scusa's school that I just genuinely don't understand because I don't understand the physiology behind it. So I try to find the answers to that. I ask questions, boom, and you move forward. Um, a lot more that I've understood in the more recent past. So, or in the recent, yeah, more recent past. So that is huge. Tips for lying hamstring curls and mental cues. So the first tip, if you're sitting there and your feet are pointed out, so like your feet are down, but they're pointed like this, that's wrong. Think right as you get in the machine, try and turn your knees towards each other so your feet are pointed straight down. That's going to allow the hinge joint to do what it does, moves in a straight line. So we don't want it to turn around and have it, we'll do it like this is your outer leg, right? And now this, the force is going this way, and you're coming like this. That's going to put a ton of torque on that knee. So try and line it up so it's straight. Other than that, thinking about doing a posterior pelvic tilt, so like humping into the bench is going to be a really good one. Making sure that you are grabbing the handles and pulling down on the handles to lock your core in tight is also going to help you with that posterior pelvic tilt. And then I like to think about dragging the weight. I don't want to think about kicking the weight up, but almost go through a more controlled, slow concentric here, because that's just going to allow you to connect with the muscle group better. So slowly pulling the weight up as opposed to just blistering, like being ballistic with it and just getting it to fly up. That's going to help you tremendously. As someone who is self-coaching, what's the tip that you can give them? So I have not self-coached since college, realistically. And even then I wasn't doing it well. So I am going to be a little more jaded here, I guess is the term, a little more naive. But what I would say is you cannot be overly emotional in your thought process. So when you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out like what the right move is, just make the decision based off of what you see, what you know, and how you're feeling and stick with it. Don't just change it the next day because you think that like you're second guessing yourself. Find the decision and stick with it. Go with your gut. That's going to be the number one tip that I have. Other than that, I would say have a second set of eyes. I know that we're talking about self-coaching here, but having a second set of eyes is going to allow you to turn around and say like, hey, this might not be the best idea. Um, maybe I would try this, or like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? That's what I would do. I know who my second set of eyes would be Joe. So if I ever were to self-coach, I would tell him like, hey, I'm not trying to fire you. I would just want you to go and be my um just be my second set of eyes. So that's what I would do. Hmm. All right. How has your training changed over the years? Um, this one's pretty simple, man. I went from kind of just ballistic move weight as fast as possible, as heavy as I could while I was in college. Then after college, I went to the Dante Trudel style, where it's progressive overload by all means, keeping like a pretty strict standard form, but just super low volume and just trying to like absolutely kill myself on every set. Um, to a little bit more volume, but like the program wasn't great. It changed every 2 weeks and like couldn't really get in a rhythm. Then I kind of freestyled my training for a while. It was very intuitive. It was a lot of like double drop sets and stuff like that on like the compound movements. The isolations were like a rep total. It wasn't even a sets total. I would just go like, hey, I'm gonna do whatever weight. I'm just gonna try and get 50 reps in as little amount of sets as possible. After that, I started working with Kuba, and that is when my training took a major leap because he was an execution Nazi. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be a failure. It was very low volume, but it taught me how to execute at a high level and stay calm under pressure to a degree. So when I was sitting there and those reps are burning, they're really hard. Hey, listen, last week you got 9, you got to progress to 10. So you can't turn around and say like, oh, I'm just gonna hope for the best. No, you got to send that motherfucker. You got to go. So that was pretty. That was like very, very much so like eye opening. From there, I worked with Dino. Dino was very high volume. The problem with Dino's very high volume was I did not understand that I needed to not train the failure. That was the only thing I knew. So I just trained the failure. And next thing I knew, I'd be sick every 3 weeks. So high volume, I realized just wasn't for me with how I like to train. And then now I would say it's almost a mix of the two. It's a mix of higher volume and it's a mix of lower volume. So the higher volume are like isolation movements, um, and like chest or not chest, but like delts and arms. My back does not leave a lot of volume to grow, so we don't really throw a lot of volume at it. My legs, this is the least amount of volume I've ever done. I'm doing once every 6 days, about 12 sets. It's the least amount of volume I've ever done in my life. But my legs are growing at an astronomical rate. So I can't complain about that. I think that's one of the wildest things I've ever seen is the fact that like we are growing so fast while not really trying to turn around and like push the volume up. It's wild. It's significantly, it's one of the most wild things to me that I've ever seen. But less can be more if you're doing things right. So you just have to be, you have to understand that. Oh, this is a good one. All right. If you had to choose one movement per muscle group, what would they be and why? So we're just gonna like top down, or we'll start down at the ankle, right? So calf, I would do a seated calf raise. Reason is that it's going to benefit my knee health more than a standing calf raise, and I am less focused on growing my calves than I am to grow my quads. So seated calf raise for the calves. We could say anterior tibialis for the front of the shin, and then we can move forward. Really, the only thing you could do. For hamstrings, I'm going to say seated leg curl. That's going to get us into a lengthened position where we're then able to contract pretty well. So I think that that is probably the most money hamstring exercise you could do. Secondly, would be a lying leg curl. So being in a hip flex position versus being in a hip extended position. think you're going to get significantly more by being in a hip flex position because of, lengthen base hypertrophy and all that. So seated leg curl is definitely number one. For quads, I'm going to say reverse banded hack squat. As much as I love a leg extension and I love a leg press, the reverse banded hack squat, when you have it loaded correctly, you have the band at the right spot, and you're able to push through those last grinder reps, your quads will explode. Explode. That is the single biggest difference, was abandoning the idea of I'm too tough to use a band and just letting the band do what it does. My knees feel healthier. I'm able to train a lot faster. Like, I'm able to recover on a hack squat better. And brother, the shit works. Like, that's what it comes down to, is the shit works. All right. Now we're going into glutes, right? So glutes, I'm going to say a Bulgarian split squat, mainly because it's going to take the glute through the length and range of motion. And you're going to be able to just, realistically, you can knock out more than just glutes there. But like, again, but a hip thrust is great, but it really just attacks the short. I want to get my glute on length and make sure that I can get the most out of the amount of like tissue I'm trying to build there. So that's going to be my movement for that. Lower back is going to be stiff leg deadlifts. That might be a cop out, but it's my cop out. So stiff leg deadlift is definitely going to be the answer there. Lat single arm, a single arm row. I've really been liking the single arm like T-bar row that I've been doing, where I stand in front of the dumbbell or in front of the weight. I do that. That fires my lat up. The single arm DY row has also been firing my lat up. And the old variation I was doing on the cable row was fantastic too. If I had to pick one of those, I would probably say the cable row, just because it's going to be the most consistent tension there. The DY row, just like all hammer strength, is extremely heavy in the short, and it drops off into the lengthen. The T-bar row is kind of just a sledgehammer. It just fucks your shit up. So I'm gonna say the single arm cable row. Upper back, a chest supported row. I would say the T-bar row is probably my favorite, because it just clang and bang, baby, just get after it. Rear delts is going to be a rear delt cable fly. Lateral delts is going to be a line cuff lateral. That is just money. You can fight like hell through that for a very long time in those sets. Front delt is going to be an incline. You're going to be supported on the incline bench, and you're going to do front raises with it. Chest is going to be, it used to be an incline Smith. Now it's like a good incline chest press machine. I really like the Atlantis. I like the Cybex. I like the hammer strength incline. The hammer strength incline, if I had the, adjustment to where like I could load it in the lengthen, that would be sick. Don't have that. I'm not going to get that. Not really worth it, in my opinion, for something that you could just do with dumbbell. But it's money nonetheless. Biceps, single arm preacher curl on a machine or an incline cable curl. And then lastly, for triceps is going to be a single arm push down with a cable. Keep it nice and easy, simple. Just those are my best movements. The arm stuff is simple. Like, it is where do you feel the best contraction? Those are where you're going to feel the best contractions. The incline like machine Y is more so because it converges. You can pump out some partials there. I used to really love the Smith machine. After seeing Jack Eagle tear his pec, that one's a no-go for me. So not until I, change my scope on it. So that's just not happening anytime soon. All right, we'll run one more because I do have a client coming. So let me just pull these questions back up, and then we will let it rip. There was a good one. If I can find it. All right, what's the simplest change you've made, which made the biggest impact? So Simplest change I've made is not stressing the little stuff. I used to stress over every little fucking detail, no matter what the fuck was going on. It was like, oh, I'm not able to make this meal. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I gotta run to the store. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. No, no. You want to make the most amount of progress that you absolutely can. You need to drop the stress and you need to just find ways to make it happen. A stress bodybuilder is a bad bodybuilder. So what I did was I dropped the stress. I put it in my coach's hands. I used my knowledge that if something went wrong, that I could make it work. And just I focused on the stuff that truly fucking mattered, right? How hard could I train? Could I sleep well? Did I eat all the food? Did I go for walks after my meals? Those were the stuff that was the stuff that mattered, and that's the stuff that I spent my time on. So that is what I would say is my uh smallest change that made the biggest impact. So with that said, I am going to go. Like I said, I have a client coming. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Uh Definitely comment below. Let me know that you guys are watching the videos. If you're in the last 5 minute crew, type a DBAFC in there. Shout out to the people. All right. So I'm out. Peace.